Dope.
Okay, so let's turn Shai up.
Check 2. I am...
Shai,
Check.
say something nice. We're good.
Love
We're
it.
good?
Levels
Yeah.
are good.
Perfect.
Well, welcome, Elevator Gang. It is Teed and Frank sitting here with Shai.
Yes. Hello.
Shailynn.
Shai, how you doing?
Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. We're super excited to learn about, I guess, it's a disease.
Yeah.
Were you born with it?
Yeah, so it's a genetic disease. Both parents have to be a carrier of the disease.
Wow.
So my parents didn't know they were carriers of the SMA gene.
Yeah.
No one else in our family had history of it. And so if both parents are a carrier, they have a 1 in 4 chance of the child being born with SMA. So I wasn't diagnosed until I was 18 months old. It was at about a year old where my parents started noticing I wasn't hitting all my milestones.
Yeah.
And that like I would stand, but I always wanted to hold on to something and I wouldn't take steps unless I was like holding someone's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started asking around and everyone just said I was a lazy baby. I would do it eventually, like not to worry about it. And so my parents became pregnant with my brother. And they were still trying to figure out what was going on with me. And at 18 months old, I was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy type 2. And my brother had been born a month earlier. And so then they had to check him. He's not, he doesn't have SMA. He's not affected by it. But he was born with a heart defect. And so he actually spent the first year of his life in the hospital. Had open heart surgery. So my parents were kind of balancing my diagnosis and his condition. And my diagnosis, when they received it, they gave me a life expectancy of 12 to 13 years old.
Wow.
And so
how old are you today?
23.
23.
Yeah.
Wow,
and so they were processing that and had another sick baby and were like just new in their marriage, beginning teachers. And yeah, it was a crazy.
How are they not
crazy
alcoholics?
Time. Right?
So
my dad does not drink, never had a drink in his life. And yeah, there's pictures of my mom like pushing me in a stroller and pulling a wagon behind her with my brother and all his oxygen tanks. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Crazy. So you guys are 2 years apart, you and your brother?
Yeah, we're like 17 months apart.
17 months.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So yeah, it was always a bit of a sibling rivalry growing up and a balancing act for my parents to like make sure I had everything I needed, but then still paid attention to my brother and like,
leave the little bro. What's your little brother's name?
Austin.
Cool.
Yeah. We go to school together in Calgary now. Yeah, it's super nice to have him there.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a bit of a freeloader, but
yeah,
okay, we work with it.
Shout out to Austin.
Yeah.
You guys close?
We're super close.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, we are.
I guess like, sorry to interrupt, but I guess like when you have a disease, like I don't like saying disease. I don't know if there's another way to frame it.
I call it a condition.
A condition.
So, yeah.
So let's call
or just
it
a thing.
Yeah. Let's
when you have a thing.
Piece of me, the SMA piece.
Yeah.
So when you got this condition, I guess like you almost have to be close with family. I mean, they are like a primary caregiver, right? Like your bro probably was helping take care of you. You were helping take care of him, and you guys all. I can't imagine the close bond that you guys.
Yeah, we kind of found our like niche in our family, and so as Austin got older, he would start lifting me more, so my parents' backs weren't dying, and he was strong and young and able to help with that.
For sure.
And he's not like a paper homework registering for classes kind of guy, and so I kind of filled in those gaps in return, and we kind of pick up each other's weaknesses, and
that's sweet. And so for the listeners, what is SMA?
So SMA is spinal muscular atrophy. It's a genetic neurological disease that affects the brain's communication to the muscles. And so beginning at your spine, it begins to atrophy and weaken and just spreads out through your body. It's a lot like ALS, but starts at birth instead of adulthood. So it's degenerative. You continue to lose abilities as you age. And it goes right down to impacting your ability to speak, your breathing, eating, everything, and eventually is a terminal disease.
And what's the expectancy? Does it change with the different types?
It changes with your types. Yeah.
So what are the different types?
The different types are type 1, 2, and 3 are the primaries. There's type 0, which is the most severe, and type 4, which is the most minor. And they're not really discussed as often. Like with type 0,
Less
there's
common.
really just nothing you can do. And yeah, they're very uncommon. Type 1 is the leading genetic killer of babies under 2. And so it hits hard. It hits quick. I worked with a family in Calgary, and their little boy was diagnosed at 3 months old and passed away just shy of his 6-month birthday.
Wow.
So it was like a quick...
Just aggressive.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the reason why there's that low life expectancy is it affects the respiratory muscles.
Exactly.
So is that... in your case, is that something that is affected?
Yeah. So my breathing, since my spine was the first to weaken, I got scoliosis super bad. And so my spine was basically in a full S. Like I had a 110-degree curve on the bottom and like an 80-some degree curve on the top. And so in grade 8, I did a 12-hour spinal fusion surgery. And so they like tractioned my spine, attached a rod on each side, wired it through all the vertebrae. And that was like life-changing for me. There were abilities I lost because of that surgery and the recovery, but it also like uncompacted all my organs. So everything was just squished before.
Right.
And so I could breathe better.
Yeah.
And once I had that room to breathe, I could then strengthen those muscles.
Yeah.
And so actually I'm super lucky. I'm a bit of a like rare case with SMA because for my type, I should be much weaker than I am. I always say it's because my parents did such like intense therapies with me growing up.
Yeah.
And so
you're type 2?
Yeah, I'm type 2.
Okay.
And so like a lot of my friends with type 2 have trouble eating, can't reach their face, like can't move their arms at all. And I just say I'm super lucky that I'm still able to do all those things.
For sure.
But yeah, it's kind of all over the map as to what people have done to strengthen those muscles, to keep the strength they have as to where their progression goes. But yeah, I'm super lucky that my lungs are strong right now.
So are you required then to like do rehabilitation and physical therapy like all the time, or?
I'm not required to, but I choose
Like, is it a good idea? Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, like the doctors actually don't recommend it.
Oh, really?
They have always said to me, like, your body's going to progress no matter what you do. So you can work your butt off, but you're going to continue to get weaker. And so it's up to you.
Yeah, I read though that physiotherapy actually can increase the life expectancy though. So that's like so stupid that doctors would say that.
And in your case, it's like a perfect example of that, right?
Exactly.
They gave you till when? 10?
Yeah, 12 was my life expectancy.
Jeez.
And so at 18 months, as soon as I got my diagnosis, my parents started doing physios with me. So I did swimming therapy. I did horseback therapy. There's literally pictures of me like 18-month-old baby on top of a huge horse, like because they heard that was really beneficial.
Why is that beneficial?
For the core, the balance and the stability muscles you use. Since SMA hits the spine first, it was really good for me to keep those muscles as strong as possible. And then, we did physiotherapy, occupational therapy.
Yeah.
I did a ton of like crawling therapy. There was always like rewards for me at the end. So they would like,
dangle a donut at the end or something.
Exactly. It was always food. The funniest joke for all my friends is that one of the rewards I would get was if I would swim laps, I would get a chicken wing for every lap I would swim. And like I loved food. So I would like work my butt off till I couldn't swim any more laps. Just like
pound of wings.
All the wings.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Wow. What I want to talk a little bit about your parents and caregiving.
Yeah.
So they carried that gene, you said.
Yeah.
How has it been? Have they ever really explained to you how the process of caregiving, like, do you know kind of what they go through on a day-to-day? And of course, I'm not taking away from your condition. And I know that obviously spinal muscular atrophy has been difficult, but caregiving is something that is sometimes looked over. Yeah. And it's such a hard responsibility and hard to stay in it. And
exactly.
So just tell me a little bit about how great your parents have been and how amazing they are.
Well, they are amazing. They have never once complained about the caregiving, and that's something I didn't realize how amazing it was until I moved away and started working with other SMA families.
Yeah.
And then I would hear some of their parents like complain about the sleepless nights or the hospital stays or their sore backs. And I was like, I never heard that from my parents. Awesome. And it was so amazing. But then I kind of looked back and saw that my parents just dove headfirst into SMA. They were like, this is their life. They never complained about it. They did the proper counseling and took the proper steps. And there were times like my mom, when I got my first wheelchair, because I was able to walk for a while, it was so hard for them to watch me go from walking to using a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And so she actually kept my wheelchair under a blanket for a year. She couldn't look at it, wasn't ready for it. And we continued to just use other ways of me getting around. And so there were like episodes like that were obviously really difficult for them. And
I'm sure there were a bunch of those.
Yeah. And like my hospital stays, like where they would be away from work and away from my brother and like away from their support system. And we also grew up in Moose Jaw with no family around. Oh, yeah. So it was 100% my
immediate
parents.
family.
Yeah. And so they were super good. Like before my back surgery, my back was in so much pain that I would wake up like every hour. And my mom would like massage my back or like give me Advil or whatever it was that I needed every hour. And then she would wake up in the morning, get us all out the door to school and go to school and work herself.
Crazy.
And it was just like our life. And so I didn't really think much of it. And then as I got into high school, I was like, wow, like this is my parents' life. And it's completely different than theirs. Friends and their like siblings. And I think that was when I kind of decided that I wanted to move away after high school. I was like, they've given me
them a break,
an amazing life, and I want to give them a break. And I want to give them time with my brother because he had a year left. And I want to give them time to kind of figure out what they want in their life and what is important to them.
That's a crazy adult decision.
Hearing that makes me feel like a very shitty person. Yeah. Hearing all the stuff your parents do for you every day.
And because your dad was my teacher and I didn't go easy on him, I was like the worst student ever. So.
I'm sure you were not.
That's insane.
So what age were you when you became wheelchair dependent?
I became wheelchair dependent in grade 3. That was when I could like no longer transfer out on my own or anything. Okay. I was fully.
What was that experience like?
It's funny. You? So many people ask me, and I was so young.
Yeah, you just don't.
That it was just like my life. Like I don't remember it being like a traumatic time. I know my parents made it like fun to use my wheelchair. And that at that point it was so physically exhausting for me to try to walk and try to stand and try to move that it was like I preferred to be able to use the wheelchair to get around instead of like forcing my body to work so hard. And so I always say I'm grateful that it happened when I was so young because I can't imagine like walking all through elementary and then high school hits and it's like, oh, I'm in a wheelchair all of a sudden. Like it happened just like as I was growing up and it was just a part of my life. And
you didn't really, you have nothing to compare it to, I guess.
Yeah, my friends were so good and so like normal around me too that I think that really helped with making it just.
They didn't have like the, like some sort of, because when you have conditions or lifelong illnesses or stuff like that, obviously people are like pitying, right?
Yes.
And sometimes that can that probably pisses you off sometimes. Like the last thing you want is to be pitied.
Exactly.
Right?
Do you get that a lot?
I get it a lot. That is like right up there with being called like inspirational. Those two things are super hard for me because it's like, I get that my life looks different and that I obviously work harder in certain areas to make it work, but it's my life. Like I don't have a choice. I'm doing it to have a life like anybody else. And yeah, it's more work and there's areas that look different, but I'm just living my life. And so I struggle with that and going between like, okay, to other people, it is inspirational that I can do these things. And it's important for people to have things that are inspirational. And I myself have things that are inspirational. And I'll look at like Lewiston was the baby in Calgary that passed away just before his 6th month-birthday. And like this sweater is from the foundation that we created in his memory. His parents started it up and I'm a board member there and we've raised like over $500,000 towards SMA families and research in Alberta. And we can get into that after. There's a lot of cool stuff I've done with them.
Cool.
But I realized that he was my inspiration to keep doing things. And then I was like, you idiot, he has SMA as well. Like, why is that inspirational to you? And then I realized it was because he struggled harder than I had to. And so it was kind of at that point that I was like, okay, I am inspirational to people because I struggle harder than they have to. And that's okay. And so it's taken a long time for me to be okay with like the pity and people who are like, God bless you. Like, I hope one day you're healed and all those kind of things. And I'm just like, okay, that's how they look at it. And I've just been able to separate that and be like, I'm living my life the way I want to live my life, despite what I have. And I just allow my life to be what it needs to be for other people's lives without internalizing.
See, that's why I think you're inspirational, not necessarily because you struggle so hard or stuff, but just kind of the way you look at life.
Yeah.
Despite everything, you know?
And I think that came with like, I was presenting to some grade 6 and 7s yesterday. And they were asking me what it was like to know my life expectancy was 12 to 13 the whole time I was growing up. And I think that's kind of what shaped my mindset. It was like, I went through grieving, like, I probably won't live past high school. And then high school hit. And I was like, oh shit, I'm still alive.
Still here.
What's next? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try university. But the whole time in my brain, it was like, I'll get a degree, but I'll never be strong enough or healthy enough to work. It'll just be that I like went through this step. But by that point, I'll be so sick that it won't be
You won't be able
useful.
to actually use it. Yeah.
And so I grieved all those things. And then in my first year of university, I went to a doctor and they were like, you have 2 to 3 good years left. Like, enjoy them. Do what you want with them. Like, your body's speeding up in deterioration. And so I went to a counselor and she was like, what's the worst part of that information? And I was like, for me, it's my funeral. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, I'm stressed about my funeral. And she's like, then plan your funeral. Like, go through those motions, figure it out, figure out what you feel about it, why you're scared of it, what you want at it. So I planned my funeral.
My goodness.
Nice.
And
that helped.
That was huge for me.
Really?
It was like, it's there now. It can happen whenever it happens. I've felt those emotions.
You felt good about it.
I've thought about what it will be like for my family and my friends, and I worked through all that. And so now I'm at a point where it's just like, life is a gift right now, and I'm super lucky to still be here, to be as healthy as I am. And then it kind of hit that treatment became available. And I was like, shit, I literally just planned my funeral. Like, I just grieved all these emotions, and now there's this hope.
So what's the treatment? It's Spinraza, right?
Yeah, so Spinraza is the first ever treatment for SMAs. Like, forever, people were just told to take home their kids, love them, and there was nothing they could do.
Just wait.
Yeah. And for the first time ever, there was this treatment available, and it was in trial phases in my first year of university, but I never would qualify for any of the criteria. And so I just watched as it like developed. And suddenly it was approved by the FDA in the US, and it was like kids were walking, and
oh my goodness,
babies who were being treated before they showed symptoms showed no symptoms.
Whoa.
As they grew up. They like hit every milestone. And I was like, what is this? And that's when I really started being like, I want this treatment. And so that was 4 years ago that I was like, I want treatment. And still through that time of wanting treatment, that was still when I planned my funeral. Like, I was at this spot where it was like, I see something and I want it and I'm working towards it, but I also don't trust that I'll be able to see that. Which I think is
normal.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I watched this treatment get approved and all these people in the US getting it. And then they started trials in Canada, and then Health Canada approved it 2 years ago. And I was like, wow, like, this treatment is life-changing. It's not going to be a cure for me. Like, my disease has progressed quite a bit.
But it'll stop.
It'll stop progression. And that means it'll stop the day that I'm going to die. It's going to extend my life significantly. And I was just like, I need this drug. Like, I just felt like there was something forcing me to go through whatever freaking hoops I had to go through in the medical field is like a ton of hoops. And so I went into a clinical trial to kind of get my foot in the door at Children's Hospital in my first year in Calgary, which was like 2016. And that trial was only 2 months long. And it was like placebo controlled. I ended up dislocating a hip trying to qualify for it because there was all these physical things you had to be able to do that really, looking back, I was too weak to do. But I insisted on being able to do them to get this 2 months of medication. And the medication was amazing for 2 months. And then I had to go off of it. And I was like,
What the fuck?
Like I was just feeling stronger and healthier, and I had so much more energy.
So
and
it was actually working really well.
It was working really well.
Wow.
And when the trial ended after 2 months, they realized they'd missed a step of safety testing for long-term use, which meant they had to go back and test the drug for 2 years before they could provide it.
Wow.
And I'd have to wait. And so that drug still isn't available right now. They're still finishing that stuff.
Crazy.
And I've always said I don't think...
In Canada, right?
Yeah.
It is available in the States.
No, this one is. The one I was on wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a different one.
It's a different one. So there's like 3 treatments kind of in the works. So Spinraza is approved everywhere. And then this cytokinetics trial I was on, only 2 months. They haven't been able to do more with it. And I think it will just be like an add-on. It really just helps your muscles absorb protein.
Okay.
And so the other treatments are more of like a gene replacement in a way. Like they're helping to trick your body into thinking it doesn't have SMA.
Okay.
Whereas this one that I did for 2 months was just more about muscle health and like building strength. And so anyways, that one still isn't available. And so I started trying to get Spinraza, and when it first came onto the market, it had a list price of $120,000, and there was per dose.
Per dose,
and you need 6 doses in the first year, and 3 doses a year for the rest of your life.
Okay, wait.
Why the fuck?
Say that slower.
Add that up.
Just say that slower so I can comprehend this.
$120,000 per dose
for 6 doses.
6 doses in the first year alone. And then every year for the rest of your life, you need 3 more doses at $120,000.
Why the fuck is it so expensive? I guess it costs so much money to make, and pharmaceutical
the
companies
research. Yeah, so they say the research, the time put into creating this treatment, the
treatment that literally, who can afford that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Literally, though, who can afford that?
Literally nobody.
Even the richest person in the world probably couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so my parents as teachers in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan did not have $120,000 for 1 dose, let alone like a year of doses sitting around.
Yeah.
And so we applied to private insurance. We tried to get through the exceptional access program in Saskatchewan, which will like allow you drugs that don't have coverage. We were denied through that. We like went through every hoop we could possibly think of trying to get this drug, and there was just roadblocks everywhere.
Oh.
And so last year in February, I got called by Children's Hospital, and they told me they were bringing a new clinical trial in that they thought I would be perfect for. And it was an oral drug that works a lot like Spinraza. It takes longer to build up in your system because Spinraza is administered into your spinal cord. And so it's obviously much more to the source.
It's a needle, right?
Yeah. And that's like a super complicated procedure with SMA because, like I said, with my rods and everything, trying to get the needle into my spine with all that metal around is super difficult. And so they ended up having to keep me awake and like barely sedated. I wasn't sedated at all. They put freezing on my skin. That was what they gave me. And I then had to help them guide the needle into my spine. I had to say when they were hitting metal, when they were hitting bone. I could feel it all.
Feel like
so wait, but that's Spinraza? I thought you didn't get that.
I did.
Oh, you did get that?
Yeah.
So how did you get that?
I got to jump back.
Okay.
I jumped too far forward.
So oral. So you were taking the oral.
So the oral drug is what Children's Hospital called me about. And they were like, we're going to do this clinical trial. We think you'd be perfect for it. We have limited spots. Like, we're going to try to get it set up as soon as possible. And in May, I found out, so May of 2018, I found out that they only receive spots for kids under 18 years old. So I wouldn't qualify for their trial. Right. And I was like, shit, I'm still trying to get Spinraza now. And so it was after I got that news that I couldn't get into the trial that I went onto Facebook, and one of my parents' friends, like their best friend, had created a GoFundMe.
Oh, yes. I remember
for me to access Spinraza.
Yes.
And they set a $200,000 goal. And so they were like, we just want you to get Spinraza and see where it goes from there. We heard that 1 dose will actually stay in your system for about a year. And so they said, even if we can get you 1 dose, that'll stop progression for a year. Right. And that buys us more time, because I was at the point still where the doctor was like, you have 2 to 3 good years left.
Yeah.
Funerals planned.
Exactly. We've gone through all the emotions and everything. And we were like, this is hope right here. And so after we started the GoFundMe, we heard that this oral drug that Children's Hospital was doing was going to be opening some spots in the US. And they were going to be for adults with SMA, but they had to have at least a dose of Spinraza. So it was testing the safety of that drug with Spinraza.
Okay.
Because they wanted to see if they could treat people who'd been on Spinraza. Like the US had been buying it for 2 years. So most of their SMA patients had been treated. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to see how it worked together. And so we were like, shit, we only have to buy 1 dose and then I qualify for this trial. And that's free treatment. And the other cool thing with the trial was that it wasn't placebo controlled. Mm-hmm. Since people had already been accessing treatment, they weren't going to ask people to go off treatment for the chance of being on placebo.
Yeah.
And so they told me that this was supposedly opening up. Try get your first dose so you meet the criteria. And then you can go into that. So we raised enough money. We contacted the drug company.
How much money did you raise?
I think we're at like $185,000.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's the GoFundMe.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was the GoFundMe. And then actually a man from Texas, his daughter goes to school in Calgary. He heard about me through her and he raised $60,000 alone through his contacts in Texas for me. People who've never met me before.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Shout out Texas.
Right?
There are some amazing people.
Yeah. Ken showed up. We met at a Denny's and he just said he wanted to give me something and he handed over $60,000 worth of checks. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, that was enough money. And he got it so quick that that's actually what we used to buy the first dose. Wow. Because it just...
Did you pay for his Denny's?
I wish I paid for his Denny's. No, I still see him like every 4 or 5 months and he refuses to let me pay for anything ever. He's like the sweetest man.
That's so nice. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And so we got my first dose and in June I received it. And it was super complicated. The first time they tried to do it, they were unsuccessful. They were just using X-ray to try guide the needle and me. And of course, that was my first time having a needle in my back. So I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it hurts. Like, that's all I could really say.
Yeah.
And so they finally had to stop. And like, I came out of the room and there was like mascara all over my face. And I was like, I told them to try 3 more times, but they refused. They were like, you're done. Like, we know how desperately you want this, but you need to stop. Like, it's not safe to keep trying. And I was like, so angry.
Keep trying what? Sorry.
The injection to get the needle in.
Because you gotta go through the metal.
Yeah. And I was like, just keep going. Like, there's a way. We're close. Like, the drug's right there. I could see it on the shelf. And I was like, I just want it in my back right now. So they sent me home. And a week later, I went back and tried again. And we did it with CT guidance. And
What's that? It's CT like scan?
Yeah, a CT scan. And so they would like put the needle in like a centimeter, put me through the machine, look at where it was, do another centimeter in the machine and out.
Crazy.
So it was like back and forth the whole time in a super like gradual process.
So is your situation unique or do a lot of people with SMA have what was it? Scoliosis.
Yeah. So
do they have like that surgery?
95 of us.
Yeah.
95% of us with SMA have had this surgery. So it's complicated. If you're treating kids, they haven't had the surgery.
Okay.
And so
it's a bit easier.
It's the adults that make it complicated. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that reason that the drug company didn't do trials in adults because it was way easier under 12. They usually hadn't had surgery yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the population they focused on with the trials.
Jeez.
And so they finally got the dose in. We like call New York and we're like, I got the dose. Like, what do we do next? How do we sign up? And they were like, well, we just got the final criteria and you need 4 doses of Spinraza, not 1.
What?
And I was like, I literally told the hospital I needed 1 dose. Fundraising, we were like, we just need 1 dose. Like the whole time it was 1 dose. Going through the procedure, I was like, just 1 dose. I just have to get through this once. And so then we were like, okay, well, we got this far. Like, we're not going to stop.
Yeah.
And so we had like a mock wedding fundraiser. We had a cabaret. We had like all these fundraisers. And the GoFundMe just like kept going. And people heard my story and were like, we will do whatever we can to get you these doses so you can access this trial. And so we finally raised enough for the 2nd dose. And I went to book it with the hospital and they refused to book it. And they were like, it costs too much for the hospital to administer the medication. And we're not required to because the drug isn't funded. And nobody's ever asked for us to administer this. So we don't have a proper procedure in place. They just had every excuse under the sun.
Which hospital?
It was South Health Campus in Calgary.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we ended up getting to talk with like the executive director of neurology and like all these people. And it took 4 months for us to convince them. And they kept saying, well, if you can tell us you're guaranteed in the trial, we'll do the doses. And the trial was like, we can't guarantee her until she's had 4 doses. And it was just a back and forth fight. And it got to the point where like I actually quit my practicum. And I was just so crushed that we'd like come so far. And then I was also struggling so much with the guilt of like, so many people have given so much money for me to get this treatment.
Yeah. And now you can't.
Now we're hitting roadblocks, and I have this money sitting there and have told people I'm trying to get treatments and I can't get them. Like they are refusing. And so I started working with an MLA, and we were like holding the government accountable, holding the hospital accountable, like threatened to have like media come into the hospital. Like it was just, we were trying everything to get them to do it. And finally, in October, they approved me to do my last 3 doses. And I had to sign a contract that I'll never ask for another dose of Spinraza unless it's approved by the Alberta government and it is a part of their treatments.
Jeez.
And I had to like sign my life
Why did
away.
they do that? I don't understand why they would make that a part of the contract.
Because they don't want other people to be coming and asking them to get treatment. Mm-hmm. So if other people buy the drug, they don't want to have to administer it.
Yeah.
So I had to say that like this was a one-off. It was only because I was getting into the trial. It wasn't expected long-term. And so at that point, we called the drug company. We're like, yeah, we're ready for the next 3 doses. Because for the loading doses, you're supposed to get a dose every 2 weeks. And it had been 4 months since my first dose. One. And so I was like, I want the next 3 doses 2 weeks apart. Like I want them following the dosing schedule because that also means I'm quicker to be eligible for the clinical trial in New York. And so we called the drug company and asked for the drug. And they said, oh, we've cut the compassionate pricing program where you were buying it for $60,000 a dose. So it's now going to cost you the full $120,000 for the remaining 3 doses. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like I have enough raised for 3 doses at $60,000, not at $120,000. And as it was, like my parents were borrowing money from my grandparents and like it was just a mess of money trying to get enough money together for this drug. And then they were like, nope, we can't do it. And so I was like, shit, like I'm not done now, I guess. And so I went back to the media and was calling everyone within the drug company. I actually shut down their system with emails one time. I put on Facebook, I was like, can you please email that this is like not okay? And broke the system with emails to the point where they were like, please stop. The head of our company is going to call you. Just ask for the emails to stop. And I was like, I just need you to realize that we're not stopping. Like you need to figure out how you're going to do this.
Jesus, remind me never to piss you off.
Right? I know.
But it seems like they're not even trying to help you. Isn't that the whole like point of a hospital is
It was so frustrating. Like the drug company had this treatment and they're trying to make it inaccessible. And the hospital can provide this treatment and they're trying to make it inaccessible.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And I was like, I said it was like a constant fight to prove the worth of my life. It was like, well, this drug is so expensive. And it's like, so I'm trying to fight and say that my life is worth $250,000. And I was like, that takes a lot of like confidence to be like, yeah, I deserve $250,000 to live. And I was like, I struggled with that.
Fucked that you even have to justify that.
Right.
Like,
and I was like, I had no money to put towards it either. I was like, I'm in my 5th year of university. I have all my student loan debt from that. I was like, I don't have a penny to put towards this treatment. And so I'm turning and asking everyone else to make it possible for me. And so we ended up convincing the drug company to waive dose 2. No, they let us pay $60,000 for dose 2. So we paid $60,000 for dose 1, $60,000 for dose 2. Dose 3, they waived the cost through a credit of the $120,000 I'd already spent. So just listen to this. So yeah, dose 3 was covered through a credit of those other $120,000 I'd spent. And then dose 4, I had to pay $120,000 for. So really, it was $60,000 a dose still. But because they couldn't set precedent to allow anybody else to access it for $60,000,
they made it seem different.
They made it seem like I paid $120,000.
That's so dumb.
It was so ridiculous. And just
sounds like money hungry business.
It is. And just a hint into like the politics of healthcare. Like I never realized the level of politics involved in it until I started fighting for it. And it's like, first we were fighting the federal government for coverage, and now we're fighting the provincial government for coverage. And now it's at this board to be discussed, and now it's at this agency to be discussed.
It's interesting because you look, everyone looks to Canada and they always say, oh, they have the public healthcare system and it works. It just seems to work so well.
Yeah, it works. And then you just get a cold
exactly. Yeah, it works if you have a broken arm, but like, if you have a life-threatening disease,
it's
and like, I mean,
it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, and it sucks to talk down on universal healthcare. Obviously, I mean, we're super lucky to access that and to have access to that. So it sucks to talk down on it, but it's always good to still acknowledge the shit you have to go through when you need special access.
Exactly.
Exceptional access.
And that was kind of when I like started my government advocacy work, and I've now been to like the House of Commons and presented there and the legislative building and like met with everyone under the sun who's willing to meet with me. I wish. Trudeau. I like got my way into this disability event to go meet Trudeau and be like, you need to cover Spinal.
Yeah, figure it out. Okay, so but
did you say that?
There are
I said that to him. I literally Ryan Miley is like the leader of the NDP in Saskatchewan, and he was at Sidewalk Days, and I saw him, and I literally drove full speed to catch up to him and like cornered him literally in the middle of an intersection, and he was like, go fast? It does. It goes like 10 miles an hour.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not bad. And I got the high speed package on it actually. And I cornered him, and he was like, I was talking at him, and he was like, can we like go on the sidewalk so we're not in the middle of the road? And I was like, oh sure. Like, didn't even notice we were in the middle of the road. I was like, I'm not missing this opportunity to tell you what needs to change.
He's the type of guy who would maybe listen too.
He has been amazing.
He's a medical practitioner.
Yeah. And so he's actually been a big help now that we're at the stage of the provincial governments deciding what they're going to fund for Spinraza.
Yeah.
So right now the federal government, they have this board called CADTH, and it's like the Canadian Agency for Drugs and Technologies in Health. And they decided that the government should only cover people under 12 with SMA, and only if they've never walked, never stood, or have never been like on breathing support. So they've never needed like a trach or BiPAP.
So what percentage of the population
that cuts out like at least 50% of the SMA population, and the SMA population is the one that fundraised all the money to research and find this drug. Like we're the ones who were like the guinea pigs for all these years, and now it's like, oh shit, you're too old now.
Yeah.
And there's actually a little boy who we've been fighting with, his family in Saskatchewan, and he was under 12 when it was approved by Health Canada. But it took them this long to make this funding decision. He's now 14, doesn't qualify for treatment.
Oh, man.
Like, it's just a mess.
That is fucked.
And so we're continuing to, like, fight for all of that as an SMA community. But I was lucky enough that I got those 4 doses, flew to New York 3 months after my 4 doses were complete.
Recently, right? You were just there.
So I just went there last month for my final screening and got approval 3 weeks ago. And I started the drug on Tuesday, the 18th.
Wow.
So, or the 19th. And so
how has first, I guess, Spinraza helped you? And then how has this new trial drug? I guess you're just, it's so recent, you can't really tell.
Yeah.
But how was the loading phase of Spinraza?
The loading phase of Spinraza was wild. It was like, so my first dose, I had like intense burning in my muscles. It was like they were like spasming and burning, and like I didn't know what was happening, and it started in my core and then like slowly spread through my body, and I was just like, what the heck is going on? And it was painful. And I got like really bad spinal headaches from the procedure. And so that was like a struggle, but once I kind of cleared, in the summer I was like so much stronger, had so much more energy. I was just like feeling so great. And then I got dose 2, 3, and 4, and I went for my repeat strength testing. So I did a strength test. It's called the Hammersmith muscle function test, just a like muscle movement test basically. And I scored a 6 out of 100 on it the first time.
Jeez. A 6.
A 6. That's what my strength rated on that scale. And I was like, well, if you want to make a person feel like shit, be like, yeah, you're a 6 out of 100 on strength.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. And so by the end of my 4 doses, I was a 13.
Wow.
And I was like, that's double
literally
what I was
double
living with before. And my energy, like my friends were beginning to be like, shut up, Shailynn. Like I used to always be
so strong.
Literally. And I used to always be so tired. And I would be like, guys, I just have so much energy.
Let's go
like
party.
Literally, and had such an appetite. And I was just like, I just want to do everything. Like I felt amazing.
That's so great though.
It was amazing until like
Goes
2.5 months after my dosing, it started to wear off. And I was like, all of a sudden, I was tired again. And my strength wasn't going away, but my stamina and my energy were like shot. Decreasing. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And it got to the point, I was talking to another girl with SMA, and we were like, it literally feels like you're craving Spinraza. Like you're desperate for this stuff that makes you feel so good.
For sure.
And so, but I had to go on this 3-month clear off period before I could start this drug. And so it was hard because I was like, this drug made me feel so great.
Changed your life.
Yeah. But it has these rises and falls. And the doctor was like, that's going to be the rest of your life with Spinraza. You're going to feel great. And you're going to have to let it wear off before you can get it again. And I was like, that sucks. Like, I'm going to live my life around the rises and falls of Spinraza.
Is it the same with this trial drug?
No. So that's what made me even more excited for this trial drug. The doctor said it takes a month to build up in your system, and then it maintains for the rest of the time you're on it. Wow. And so because you take it daily, it's putting it into your body daily and maintaining those levels. And so that's going to be the amazing part of this drug. I already have more energy. I'm like fighting a cold and still have the energy to like go out and present and do all these things, which I would never be able to do. Like before treatment, when I'd have a cold, I'd be in bed for a week. Like no school, no nothing. Like weak as shit. And I was like, what? This is not my normal. And so I'm super excited to see what the treatment's going to do as it builds up in my system and know that it's constant.
So it's a trial period.
Yeah. So it's a 3-year.
Is that going to end too?
Yeah.
Fuck,
so it's a 3-year long trial, which is way better to begin with.
Yeah, for sure.
The amazing part of the trial is it's free. They pay for my transportation there, my hotel.
It's awesome.
It's all covered. So it's literally free treatment for 3 years.
That's amazing.
So that's the first amazing part. The second amazing part is
who's covering it?
It's called Roche Pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And yeah, they're the ones who developed the drug, and they're paying for people to go in the treatment.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny because all the other people, there's 10 of us in New York in the trial. And there's actually only like 50 spots around the world for this trial. So it's super hard to get into.
It's pretty sweet how you get to go to New York too.
It is. It's a cool place. I've never been there.
We'll do a podcast in New York.
Literally, I am. I'm going with like 4 girlfriends on Friday. We're all going up. Yeah.
Nice. How often do you have to go to New York?
So I have to go every 2 weeks right now.
What?
So
that sounds terrible.
Where are you staying?
Right?
Where are you staying?
I'm staying at the Empire Hotel.
Wow.
From Gossip Girl.
Sick.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super nice. And yeah, it's just been wild, like planning my life around this every 2 weeks for the next 2 months.
Man, that's crazy.
And then it goes to every 3 months for the rest of the trial. So that's way more manageable. And then after the 3-month trial is over, they actually offer 3 years in compassionate access as a thank you for going to the trial.
Oh,
so I actually get 6 years of treatment for free.
Awesome. Wow.
So it's amazing.
Where were all these fucking people with the Spinraza shit?
Right?
Like all these nice people willing to actually help out.
Yeah.
I sure hope it works out though.
Yeah. I'm super excited. The doctor has said that it's like she thinks going to be better than Spinraza. And so we'll see how it goes. And just like any treatment, like it's all going to depend how hard I work and how much physio I do. And I actually just, the Kinsman Club here in Musha donated a standing wheelchair to me. So I'm going to pick it up on Monday from Wascana. They got it all set up for me. So I'm going to work on weight bearing, which I haven't done in like 10 years.
Wow.
And so that's
that's just like an electric wheelchair that you stand in?
It like slowly stands up, literally.
Oh, nice.
So like it like can slowly build up that ability to
so you
stand
can
fully.
Every day or something, raise it a centimeter or
exactly.
something. Cool.
And so I'm working on that. I work with a physiotherapist and I go to the gym. There's a accessible gym in Calgary that has like all these weight machines that are wheelchair, like set up for wheelchairs.
Did you do any of that here? Because my friend Chris Lasenko, do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a gym that's an accessible gym.
Oh.
First Steps Wellness, I think it's called.
I've never been.
Yeah, so that's in Regina. He's a former lacrosse player who actually had a spinal cord injury in his like lacrosse days. He was my goodness. He was my team SAS coach. Yeah, wow. We're actually gonna get him on the podcast eventually. But
that's
he has
cool.
It's called First Steps Wellness Center.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. For sure.
So can we talk about like all of that stuff is amazing, of course. Let's just talk about regular shit. So how important is it for you to do regular people things? I mean, you're obviously presenting, you got all this shit going on, you're in trials. How do you stay grounded and be a normal human being? It's
like essential for my sanity to have a bit of like normalcy in my life.
For sure.
And so I go to school, and honestly, school, it sounds ridiculous that I'm like staying in my 4 classes in university while going through all this and doing all this stuff. But it's literally what keeps me feeling like a normal 23-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I have school. I've got to do my homework. I'm working towards getting a job. Like, I need that to be a motivator for me to go through all the other things. And so I try to like just go out with my friends and just go on trips. And I try to make my life seem as normal as possible in the days where I have downtime from the other things. And so if I don't have a speech or I don't have a doctor's appointment, I try to just ignore that side of my life for a day, or I get super overwhelmed.
Of course.
There's like there had to have been a year or a point where you probably mental health took a toll, right? Because like I'm thinking one day you're gonna have to just be like, this is what happened to me. Fuck. Like now I got to accept it.
Yeah.
So like, have you struggled with depression or anything like that?
Totally.
Yeah.
I started struggling with depression in grade 7. I started getting bullied for being in a wheelchair then. I had people like putting on Facebook that I deserved to crawl on the floor, that I didn't deserve a wheelchair. Like, it was out of control. People who were friends with me started getting
kids, man.
People who were friends with me started getting like pushed down the stairs because they were friends with me. And like,
it was what elementary school did you go to?
Palliser Heights.
Jesus. Like, Tony had to leave there too.
I had a big mole on my neck.
He had a huge mole, and we literally had to change schools because of it.
I got made fun of by this one guy who ended up actually being my best friend after I left the school.
Are you serious? Yeah. That's hilarious.
But
kids are evil.
They are. And so that's when I started struggling. And then it got bad in high school as my friends started like dating and driving and
for sure
planning. Like, they would just go away or like stay at each other's houses.
It's so easy for them.
Exactly. And I was
they
like,
don't have to fucking
they just hop in each other's vehicles.
Yeah.
And I was like stuck at home. Like, my parents were driving me to every party. I'd have to come home after every party. It was like, it was hard to be different at that point when you like just want to fit in.
Of course.
And I had amazing friends through high school who like would go above and beyond to make it so I was a part of everything. And like,
it's amazing. Yeah, those formative years would be definitely the most difficult ones.
Yeah, they really were. And so that's when I started counseling in grade 8, and I did counseling all through high school. I still do counseling.
Good.
And I think it's what makes it all manageable. Like, I don't think I could keep up with this pace and the reality of my life and like all the planning and work it entails if I didn't have that reminder of how to think and how to stay positive. And I've taken antidepressants for like 6 years now, and I've tried to go off of them, and I'm like, you know what? My life is still too much for me right now. And I'm on a good level with them that I can do everything I want, and I'm happy. And I'm like, it's not a bad thing that I have to take these meds to be able to function. And it's just 1 year at a time for me. I just kind of see I'm kind of at a transition point right now. I'm graduating university this year, and I need to find work, and I need to move out of residence, and I'm getting a service dog, and I'm starting a clinical trial, and I'm just like, it's a lot. It's a lot of change.
It doesn't sound like that much.
Yeah, right.
Sounds pretty
it's
easy.
Just minor changes. And it's overwhelming at times.
Sure.
And it takes like my friends being like, let's take a weekend in Vegas.
Yeah, let's just fucking bounce.
Let's forget about the wheelchair for a minute. And my friends are amazing because like they'll lift me, they'll help me with whatever I need.
Yeah,
and so instead of having to bring someone with me to help me, like in university, I have workers that I hire at nighttime because I can't get in and out of bed on my own. So they stay overnight in case there was ever a fire or anything. And so my life is dictated by that schedule. Like when they arrive, when they leave, that's the only time I have to be out of my wheelchair. That's the only time I have to sleep. And I have to make all my plans around it and make sure that I have people that are reliable, and I do all their payroll and all their scheduling. Jesus. And it's so nice to take a break from all of that and just know my friends know what I need and are able to make it happen. And I just get to like be with my friends for a few days.
Yeah, for sure.
Jesus.
And yeah, those are the like sanity breaks.
Totally.
For
yeah.
me.
Everyone kind of needs the normalcy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need to get away from all that craziness.
Well, and even like this next weekend when I'm going back to New York for my next trial appointment, I'm bringing 3 friends with me. And so it's like, yeah, I'm going for doctor's appointments and all this stuff, but it's also just a fun trip.
Girls
and
weekend.
Yeah, I have like those supports there.
For
and
sure.
So
go shopping.
Yeah,
Shout out to the friends who help us out.
Exactly.
You know? It's awesome.
Yeah.
So how much do you get tired of just having to talk about this? Or I guess having to put on, like, because you are so you're very well spoken, you can talk about it, and I know that that's something you're passionate about, of course, but there's some days where you just want to like say fuck.
Yeah, there are so many days, and so many days where I just don't want to be the like innocent, positive girl in a
like
wheelchair,
the face of SMA.
And it's like I'm passionate about it, and I know that I'm like, it fell in my lap, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And I do it for people like Lewiston and people who don't have a voice to fight for it.
It's amazing.
And it keeps me going, but there's so many days where I'm like,
wake up, you want to be a normal fucking human being.
I'm like, I just want to like not have to pretend that life's easy, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, it's great. And there's some days where I'm just like, life sucks, I'm exhausted, I don't want to be in a wheelchair, I want to go hop in a vehicle and go for a drive and not plan a single thing. And it's like, it's hard for me because I'm not good at sharing that vulnerability. And I've learned to share more and more vulnerability as I've moved along in this.
Yeah, I think as you get older too.
Right? Exactly.
But it also kind of sucks that you feel inclined, like you need to share that vulnerability,
right?
You know, like I don't feel the need to share when I'm having a shitty day. Like, why should you? You know, it shouldn't be a thing.
And it's like, I feel like a lot of people have in their heads, they're like, shit, this girl's got it all together. She has no bad days. She just knows what she's doing. And it's like, no, there's days where I call my friends and I'm like, I'm done. And they come over and I just tilt in my wheelchair and I'm like, I can't do anything. Like I'm done.
So,
and yeah, it's like learning how to get through those days and balance those feelings.
So let's talk about the benefits of medical marijuana then. Does that help?
Bong rips.
Yeah, that has been life-changing for me.
That's amazing.
I started having pain in high school, and I was on like Advil, Tylenol every 2 hours back and forth. And to the point that like, if I take an Advil now, it does nothing. It's like candy. Yeah. Like my body's so used to it.
Yeah.
And so we started slowly moving up on the painkillers. And it got to the point where I was like on OxyContin and I was on morphine and I had horrible side effects and I couldn't function.
Of course.
And I was still in pain. And I was like, this isn't working for me. Like I wasn't sleeping. So I was exhausted, which was then making me in more pain.
And then you're always high too, which isn't fun.
It just wasn't working. And so I had a doctor, a physiatrist who switched me to a pill called Nabilone, and it's synthetic THC. And so she's like, try this, see if this is something that works, and we can go from there. And so for 2 years, I took this synthetic THC pills that you just like got from Walmart.
Yeah.
And they were helping. They were amazing. I was in no pain. And then it got to the point where I was on the max dose of it. And she was like, your body's gotten used to the synthetic. It's time that you like look at something else.
Time to get a bag.
Time to go buy a bong.
It's time to buy a bong.
And so my parents as teachers were like, this is not, my mom was terrified. She's like, you're going to become like a meth addict. What is going to happen here?
But then I'm sure like the same way they jumped in with SMA, I'm sure they did their research and started actually learning about it.
Yeah. And they've seen firsthand the difference for me.
Yeah.
And so I actually, got hooked up with Natural Health Services in Alberta, and they have like an amazing team of doctors that monitors it all so closely and like sets you up with the proper pharmacies.
Cool.
And they were amazing.
Smoke it with you.
Exactly. Yeah. Literally. He's like, well, at home, I recommend this. And I was like, okay. And yeah, it's just, it's super nice now that it's been legalized too, because I feel like I have to hide it less.
Yes, of course.
Like it was definitely, especially in my line of work and being in the criminal justice world, I was just like, I felt
like a criminal.
I felt like a criminal and I felt like I had to hide it. And I mean, I smoked weed in high school. Like who didn't try that kind of stuff? But I was just like, it was never a part of my life to have like a bong sitting in my house or like something like that.
For sure.
It just helps me in so many ways and allows me to function like a normal human being without pain that I just can't imagine my life without it now.
It's crazy because now that it's legalized, there's going to be a lot of medical research going into it. So it's pretty awesome that like the health benefits are huge still with pot.
What's your favorite way to consume the marijuana?
Joint? Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm supposed to take oil during the day. I'm allowed to smoke at night, and then I take a CBD THC oil blend
that'd be good.
through the day.
Is it one of those little pens?
No, I have one of those too.
Good.
They're great. But it's just literally oil you put in a syringe and like put into your coffee. And so that's how I'm able to like consume it through the day.
It's cool that it's a CBD blend.
Yeah. Yeah. Because with the anxiety and stuff, it helps to have that side of it too. And so, yeah, I get to smoke at night, have the oil during the day to make sure I'm not in pain at school and everything. And yeah, like I don't think I look high ever. I don't think I use it to the point of like getting super high.
Blasted, yeah.
Exactly. It's more to getting to the point where I'm not in pain. And that literally feels like being high to me. It's like, I feel so good not being in pain that it's like, wow, like what are we going to do? And my friends will laugh at me because they're like, they'll see in my eyes when I'm in pain and when I'm not. And they're like, oh, you look like you're in pain. Like we better not do anything else today. Or they'll be like, oh, like you're having a great day. What do you want to do? Like, let's go for a hike. Let's go find something fun to do.
Crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah,
for
it's
me.
good for I guess all things, right?
Exactly.
Pain probably makes your spirits high. So yeah, I can't. It's crazy because I have these conversations, and of course I'm not. This is no pity, at all. But it's sometimes I complain about shit, you know, and then I get this perspective and I'm like, why the fuck am I complaining?
Yeah.
Like I'm literally able to stand up out of bed, and that's like a gift, you know, like, well,
and it's funny because I always was like so chill with people complaining. It was like, they'd complain about like their car not starting, and I'd be like, well, it'd be fucking sweet to drive. But I just like sit there and now as I get older and like the friends I've been friends with for a long time,
you're becoming bitter.
I'm becoming like, okay, shut up. Like you're fine. Your brand new car is costing you more than you thought in gas.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm getting to the point where I'll say it and then I'll be like, Shailynn, like it's fine.
Well, it's kind of funny to joke about.
No one else lives
it,
your life. But I'm like, yeah, there are times now where I'm like, it's not that big of a problem. There's real world problems. It doesn't matter how many likes you get on a post or like how many followers you have. I'm like just trying to like make sure someone shows up to lift me out of bed. But like I'm like, and so I joke about it now, and I think that helps me not be bitter. I'll be like, yeah, that must suck. Like, yeah. And my friends have always like made wheelchair jokes and like made fun of like in the kindest way, but like made fun of my weakness or like what I can't do. And I think that really helps me accept it too, because like they identify it and they see it, but they don't like, it doesn't bother them. They like joke about it. And it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and it's all about the intent. I mean, they just want to have fun.
Exactly.
It's like me making fun of Frank.
Exactly.
And Frank making fun of me. Yeah. It's the same shit, right?
It's just like, this is what I look like. This is what you have to work with when we're joking about me. And so, yeah, we always try to have a lot of humor in it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep it light.
Yeah.
So where can people go to learn more about this? Like for me, even before I met you, I've been watching this couple on YouTube. I forget their name.
Oh, Shane and Hannah. They're doing amazing things for us.
And honestly, it's so educational because they, you know, like I watched a video the other day of like how I have a shower. Yeah. And they literally just show how like you shower with SMA, and like it's very educational in an informal way, which I think is super important.
Yeah.
And they're Hannah is completely able-bodied or whatever.
Yeah.
And Shane has SMA. I think a more aggressive form of it.
So see, he has type 2 as well.
Type 2 as well.
So it's the same as mine, but as you can see, it's much more severe than mine.
For sure.
So yeah, it's such a wide scale. But yeah, his is quite more progressive.
You ever talk to them?
I have talked to him quite a bit.
That's
nice.
So dope.
No, he's making waves, and they even were, when you were going through all that Spinraza stuff, I was watching some videos, and they were explaining it from Canada's perspective too, which I thought was really cool, because they're not just, you know, only worried about where they are. They're actually, you know, trying to spread knowledge to the world.
Holy shit, so you did do research.
So what was that? Well, it's YouTube, man.
Oh,
that's Frank's style of research right there.
But so where can people go? Like, obviously, I forget the name of their page, but if you just type in Shane and Hannah SMA, you'll find it on YouTube. But are there other resources that people can go to learn more, especially from a Canadian-centric perspective?
Yeah, so Love for Lewiston is like my go-to for SMA. So we are doing a lot of exciting work for SMA, but on the other side, we're funding wheelchairs. We're funding vehicle lifts. We're like, we're seeing that these things cost so much money. Service dogs.
Man. How much is a service dog? Just to tell.
$30,000.
$30,000.
How excited are you for a puppy though?
I am so excited.
I think that's how I originally came across you.
Because you donated, and I was like, who is this guy? And then I asked my friends, and they all knew who you were. And I was like, okay, well, I'm an idiot because I've never heard of him.
Yeah. But I had never known you either. And then I made the connection with Mr. Taylor because he's a teacher.
Yeah.
And then, but that's how I heard of you. You were looking for a service dog. And you needed $30,000 to get a dog. Like, it's crazy.
What kind of dog is it?
He's an English lab.
Oh, okay.
He's like 90 pounds. He's huge, but he's so gentle and
of course, he's
quiet. And he's amazing.
They're trained amazing.
Like, people don't think of a service dog as being an expense like that.
Right?
And
it's an expense like that. And then you see what they can do. And it's like, shit, that's like having a hired hand with you all the time. Like, it's insane.
Like, what can they do? Like, what are some kinds of things?
So I did work with a visually impaired woman.
Yeah.
I volunteered I did this digital story on her when I was in university. And like, man, this dog was like unreal. Would stop at the curb, would like pretty much guide her around the world.
Yeah.
How would a service dog help you? Wait, what's his name?
Atre.
Yeah.
So he was born in Czechoslovakia and was raised there for 6 months and then brought here. And he was a gift to my trainer because she just opened her service dog, like government registered service dog agency in Edmonton. Yeah. And so she had worked in Czechoslovakia for 20 years. So they donated Atre to her as like a gift for opening.
Yeah.
And so he's from a line of like 30 years of service dogs. Like he's like, and he's bilingual because he was raised there for the first 6 months. So he knows all his commands in both languages.
Russian.
But he can like take, he'll do my laundry for me. So he'll put the laundry in the laundry machine, take it out, put it into the dryer.
That is
Shut the fuck up.
On,
right?
Really?
He'll grocery shop for me. I'll tell him what I want and he'll take it off the shelf and put it in the basket.
What
the hell? No wonder this dog's $30,000.
Right? He'll pick up my credit card or like anything I drop, but like that small. He can pick up paper without creasing it. It's called like gentle pick. And he like literally gets it with his lips. And
is there
like,
video?
I have videos on my page. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He has his own Instagram. So
no way.
He's at Atre, the service dog.
How do you spell it? Atrej. And then it's SD for service dog. Service dog, nice. I want to follow that right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I post lots of stuff.
I love it.
Him. But and he can like help me reposition my legs. So I'll put like my hand beside my calf and I'll say touch. And he'll stick his head in behind my legs to like stretch them out and then stay there till they're good. And then he'll back out. Yeah.
That's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so cute.
He'll put his paws on my armrest and put his head under my arm and lift my arm with his head so I can reach things.
Oh, he's opening the door for you here. That's amazing.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's
so they're trained to just help people, or do they kind of have to be familiar with you?
So he's trained as a mobility dog. So he's trained to be working with someone in a wheelchair. And then before I get him, we'll do 2 weeks of team. So I've like spent a lot of time with him already.
Yeah.
Matching with him and then like doing some testing with him. And then we'll do 2 weeks of team training before he's mine. So I'll like learn all the commands and we'll like really work on switching his bond from the trainer to me. And then, he's mine. He'll be mine by the middle of May. So
how old is he?
They must retire.
He's just about 2.
They must.
They work for 10 years.
They work for 10?
Yeah.
So, and then they get to...
And then they retire. Get to be a pup.
So do you have that thing on him that says, do not pet? This is a service dog? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, then when you take that off, that's when they know.
He's a dog.
That's when they know they can be a dog. Yeah, that's crazy.
And he actually, since I do this kind of work, and especially in like classrooms and stuff, I wanted to make sure people could still touch him. So we actually have a command where he stays with his attention on me, but anyone else can pet him and touch him and everything. So it means that if someone, like if a kid comes up to me and I want to tell them about the service dog, I can give him the command and he'll continue his attention on me, but allow for other people to touch him.
Whoa.
So yeah.
It's like smarter than me.
Right? He's brilliant. Smarter than me, really.
So I guess we come like from a line of all those amazing dogs. Right?
Well, the one day they were coming for a meeting for me to sign like my final contract. And he was walking around. He didn't have his vest on, and the trainer and I were talking. And we were at my dorm, and I forgot I dropped my lip trap that morning. And he was just walking around. All of a sudden, he came over to me and had something in his mouth and like put his head on my lap. And I put my hand out, and he picked up my lip trap that I totally forgot I dropped. And she was like, "Did you ask him to do that?" And I was like, "No."
Match
She's
made
like,
in
"He
heaven
literally
right
just wants to work for you. Like he just,
that's
yeah."
So cute.
Also, like, you don't like. There's no feeling like, oh, I'm making this guy work. Like,
exactly.
That's cool that he actually loves to do that.
He loves.
We'll have to do a follow-up podcast when you have him.
Totally.
It'd be amazing.
Totally. Yeah.
That's so cool. So your Instagram, where can people support you either financially or just follow your page, or what do you suggest?
And also, what was that Lewiston? Where can they?
Oh, so Love for Lewiston. If you just look up Love for Lewiston on Google, it's loveforlewiston.ca. But it'll pop up right there. It'll tell you all about the work we're doing. We host like a birthday party for Lewiston every year in memory of him. So the 3rd birthday is coming up on May 25th, and last year we raised like over $140,000 at his 2nd birthday.
Wow.
So
where is that?
It's in Calgary.
Nice.
At Rodney's Oyster House. There. You guys should come for sure.
Totally come.
That would be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
A podcast with Jess.
Our mom lives there, so
like,
we totally
really?
could. Yeah.
Yep.
We totally could.
I'm getting you tickets.
Let's make it happen.
Jessica, we need to get these guys tickets.
I'll take pictures there too.
May 25th.
Sure, I'll take the flight and meal costs.
Sounds good. Deal. You're sold.
No, we totally should. That would be amazing.
But yeah, it's amazing. Jess is actually having a baby. It's been 3 years since Lewiston passed, and she's due in the middle of April with their baby.
Is it nerve-wracking for her?
It was terrifying. They ended up getting genetic screening done in vitro. And the baby doesn't have SMA. So that's amazing. I'm actually the only one who knows the gender of the baby. And so that's super exciting.
Insider
for
information.
Me.
Are you sure you don't want to share it here on
she'll kill
on
me.
The Elevators podcast?
I've been threatened that our friendship's off and I will get no baby snuggles if I reveal that. But yeah, so Love for Lewiston is an amazing resource for SMA info and events and ways to give back. If you Google me, every single article and news interview I've ever done pops up, so there's a lot of information there. They're not all great, but Shailynn Taylor, it's SHAILYNN and then TAYLOR.
Cool.
But my Instagram is where I post updates of the trial, the dog, my life. I
can't wait to follow that dog.
And so my Instagram is at Shai, SHAI, Brooke, BROOKE, and then Tay, TAYY. That was my nickname.
We'll link it in the podcast description as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Bren Roberge for creating that 10 years ago. And yeah, it's stuck with me ever since.
Nice.
Yes.
I'm going to hit a follow.
Perfect.
I better get a follow back.
Oh,
you got some followers though, hey?
It's built. It's crazy. As my Spin Razza journey and the news hit, all these people started following me.
That's so good.
And I was just there was a new pressure to that. I was all these people want updates. And I was just.
Well, be prepared. There'll probably be another 3 or 4 followers following you from this podcast.
We got a couple listeners now.
Solid return for me. I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Shai. I hope we can make that May 25th thing happen.
Yeah, it'll be amazing.
And let's go hit the bong.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Let's do it. Fine.
All right, cheers.
See you later. Right on.